welcome to MCTV's Let's Talk. I'm Mike Stanzillis, Vice President of Membership and Government Affairs for the Morris County Chamber of Commerce. And today, we are truly blessed to have with us Bill Olderman for Bill's Member Spotlight. Bill is with Titan Energy. So, today is going to be a little bit different than usual. There's an old expression and it goes, people do business with people they know, like, and trust. So after this interview, I know you're going to want to do business with Bill Olderman, and we're not even probably going to talk much about Titan Energy. So Bill, welcome to the show.
Nice to be here. Thanks for having me, Mike.
It's great to have you, Bill. So you joined the Chamber in 2012, and prior to that, you had a very successful career in banking as a currency trader. And then you left that business and sort of bounced around in the hinterlands of the business world and other odd jobs almost for about 8 years, including owning a gym. And what I find really fascinating is riding in an ambulance as an EMT for 7 years. So, Bill, then you joined Titan Energy in 2012, but right away you joined the Chamber. When you first joined the Chamber, what were some of the mistakes that you made?
It's a good question. There were a handful. The Chamber was my first foray into any type of sales and networking, as was the energy business. But I would say the two things that really stood out about mistakes I made early on. One, I thought sales and networking was transactional, and that if I met someone, I was seeing if they wanted to buy my stuff, and if I wanted to buy their stuff, and if not, I wanted to meet someone else. And that was clearly a glaring mistake. The other mistake was one I learned a little bit down the road, and it was almost a good-hearted mistake, which was when I embraced, when I wanted to be a giver, when I was taught and mentored to be a giver, I focused on wanting to give referrals, which is great, but it's a challenge. It's challenging and a little narrow. So what I kind of embraced is that not just direct referrals, but broaden my thought process about being a giver. Who would just be a good person this person wants to swim in the pool with? They're trying to meet the same types of targets. They have same personal interests, not necessarily business. So I started thinking a little broader about how to be a giver. Nonprofits became a great focus. So I would say those two things were particular. The mistake of looking at networking as being transactional. And then even when it came to being a giver, I thought about it initially too narrow, always or only thinking about who would be a good potential client for someone. That's all.
Interesting. So, let's talk about a little bit what you learned from those mistakes. So, obviously you've been very successful here at the Chamber. You learned early on from mistakes. What was it that you learned? And essentially, what was it that you changed in your behavior? What did you start doing right?
Well, I definitely, after about 7 or 8 months of this transactional mindset, I did some one-to-ones, which I'm a big advocate. For me, that's been the single biggest, activity about, good networking and good relationship building. But I really tried to focus on being a giver. My favorite example is I used to go to Business Connections, and I get all pumped up in the morning and say, I hope I meet someone that can really help me today. I hope I meet someone that can really help me today. And then I did a 180 after speaking to some really, successful Chamber members who were mentors to me. And I got this idea, like my goal at Business Connections, and I've expanded it now, is I want to be that person for someone else. I want someone else to leave Business Connections and say, I'm so glad I met Bill Olderman. Maybe it's a nonprofit that has a golf outing and they're like, oh, we're looking for $50 tea sponsors. I'm like, I'm your guy, $50. And I'm telling you, not only does it make me a giver, it makes me memorable. People at my table remember, and then people come up to me and want to get to know me. And to me, that's been gold in terms of relationship building, business development, and referrals.
That is really outstanding advice for all of our Chamber members. It's interesting. You started out with what we call commission breath, and I think people smell that a mile away, but really you learn pretty fast. And then, you really, it's the perfect segue. You said you know, when you walk away from your table, you are memorable. So we started this interview with people do business with who they know, like, and trust. So the memorable thing is about who they know, right? How did you get people to know you so well at the chamber? I mean, it seems like everybody knows Bill Olderman.
Well, this is came out of the mistake I made when I first joined the chamber. I was one of these people who, I showed up for business connections once a month and did nothing else for 7 or 8 months. That's the truth. And then I did a couple one-to-ones again with a couple people who became mentors and friends who talked about the secret. And the secret, I believe, be visible and be active. And so at about the 7-month mark, there were several other energy companies in the chamber. I had the advantage of just starting, so I didn't have a lot of clients. I had a lot of time, and I made a decision to show up at everything my calendar allowed for in the chamber. I showed up at networking events. I showed up at workshops. I showed up at committee meetings. I showed up at everything. And not right away, but another few months down the road, people began to know me, know what I did. They knew my face, they knew my name, and they knew what I did. That's how I started changing. People, the secret, be visible, be active.
Yeah, it's amazing that you really hit it right on the head. You've got to, I don't want to sound cliche, but you've got to be in it to win it, right? You've got to be there. You've got to participate, and you've clearly demonstrated that. So, go ahead.
I was going to add one more thing. So over the years, I've invited friends, colleagues outside the chamber to the chamber to consider membership. Mm-hmm. And one of the things I'll tell them when they'll come to an event and they'll be enamored. They'll be like, oh, this is great. And I tell them, listen, if you're going to join the chamber and come to business connections, and that's all you're going to do, I was like, you may want to tap the brakes, because the truth is you can be the best, mosquito service out there. I can be the best energy guy in the world. If I show up once a month to an event, no one's going to know who I am. No one's going to know and trust me, and no one's going to refer me. Mm-hmm. It's such a key element, simply showing up.
All right. So I love what you said, because again, you're really perfectly segueing into the trust piece of it here. You said no one's going to know you. Obviously, that makes sense, right? If you're not here, no one will know you. But if you are here a lot, how is it with trust? You've developed so much trust with others. What is it about Bill Olderman that people trust?
I think I'm not unique in terms of business development people, but an advantage I feel I have is that the service that I do provide is pretty straightforward. And in 30 seconds or a minute, I'm good. I've learned to articulate what my value add is. And so what that allows me is, when I'm speaking to people, is I can talk about myself a little more personally, because I haven't gone through or need to go through a laundry list of goods and services I provide. So sure, I can share 30 seconds about this is what I do, this is how I help. But then I can share about myself personally. I'm probably a little more willing than most to be an open book, to be a little vulnerable at times, to share some of my experiences, good and bad. But I've found the willingness to do that has allowed people to open up to me. I'm active in some nonprofit organizations that people have had some need for services. And what a great joy to have, some challenges from my past to be able to pay it forward to other people in my present and future. All because I'm willing to not just sell energy for a living, but try and be a giver and try and be an open book. So I think doing that over time, has kind of given me a good personal brand within the chamber, almost to a fault. Mm-hmm. People tend to know more about what I do outside of my job than what my business card says. I may err a little too much on the other side, but basically people have an idea of what I do. But in the end, that's not why people refer me. They refer me because they know about these other things that I'm about. They know I'm not going to mislead people. I'm grateful that when I get to sell, I don't have to lie, cheat, steal, exaggerate. I'm proud of what I do. I know I can help businesses, and I can do it in a way that makes me very comfortable. I sleep great at night. And a lot of times, again, I get to help people, people that I wouldn't know if I didn't sell energy for a living, but it has nothing to do with selling energy. And believe me, I pinch myself some days. I don't know how it happened like that. It's not where I was in January 2012 when someone said, "Oh, why don't you think about energy sales?" It's completely 180 degrees from where I thought I'd be.
Amazing. So, you've touched on so many things, and we can do an entire program on vulnerability. And then that's a theme from my interviews with a lot of other chamber members and leaders. And there's, books out there about it. Dare to Lead is the one that really brought that to the forefront of conversation the last few years. And clearly you display that in such a humane and open and honest way. So we want to give you a little credit with Titan Energy. You talked about features and benefits, and you don't, as they say, show up and throw up with features and benefits, and you have a great balance of that. So, but now's an opportunity to tell us a little bit about what Titan Energy does.
Sure. So Titan Energy, we're a full-service energy company. We were born when energy markets were deregulated in 1999. We've been around since 2000. And we simply do two things. We help businesses and nonprofits manage and reduce their energy spend. We look at the cost they pay for the commodity itself, and then we look at how much energy they use and try and manage and reduce those two things. We operate solely in the commercial space, which does include nonprofits, many of which I was introduced to through the chamber and activities within the chamber, and that's our sweet spot.
Well, that's fantastic. So in wrapping up here, can you share with our membership one or two key takeaways to maximize their membership, how to be successful growing your business through the Chamber of Commerce?
Sure. One is simply worth repeating. Be visible and be active. Mm-hmm. Again, this is people I feel like sometimes are asked, what's the secret? What's the secret? I think, in networking and business development, be visible, be active. Just like in personal development, my secret, that I try and employ is good habits. It's not a pill I take every day. I don't know something other people don't know. I've developed some good habits, gotten rid of some bad habits, and I apply them day to day. So that's number one. The second thing is something that's really come out of the last 3 years, I would say, of my networking, which is like all of us here, I'm trying to meet new people. But one thing became clear to me about 3 years ago is all my referrals came from my warm network, and really more specifically, my warmest network, not people I may have just met. Now, so when I meet someone, I have a connection, maybe it's business, maybe it's personal, maybe it's background, and I try and cultivate that person into my warm network. So my other thing to maximize my membership, and this takes work, again, not a secret, which is, I have a list of the people that I consider my warm network. And if I haven't heard from one of them or seen one of them, hey, particularly in our COVID environment where that's a challenge, they're on my calendar roughly every 6 to 8 weeks. Maybe it's an email, quick phone call, virtual coffee nowadays, because at the end of the day, having nothing to do with me being a good or bad guy or them being a bad or good gal, whomever it may be, there's an element out of sight, out of mind. Mike, you can be the best chamber membership person in the world. And if I don't see you for 6 months and someone says, Bill, a good chamber to join? I may not think of Mike Stanzilis. And so I need to keep my warm network warm. That's been super productive for me, particularly in the last 3 years.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that with us. And it's really no secret to our members that Bill Olderman of Titan Energy is a person that we know, we like, and above all, we really trust. So Bill, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you.
And thank you.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
We love having you here, Bill. And so thank you to all of our chamber members for all of your support. If you're interested in being on Let's Talk and doing a member spotlight, just reach out to me directly. And again, thank you to all our chamber members. Have a great day.